Another high-impact winter storm is coming to the upper Midwest. The combination of heavy snow near blizzard conditions with wind gusts potentially approaching 50 miles an hour, and then some life-threatening cold on the backside. It's going to be a wild weekend as we head into the central part of the country, into the Great Lakes. Here's what it looks like right now. This is valid late Wednesday evening across central Iowa. A snow squall warning. Heavy snow already falling, a quick 1 to 2 inches of snow with a burst of snow out that way, but big changes are certainly coming as we head towards late Thursday into Friday and into early Saturday. Here's a look right now at those winter storm watches in effect. They extend from basically northeastern Kansas through eastern Nebraska into much of Iowa, through northern Indiana, into southern Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, in the thick of this potential winter storm that's coming your way. A pretty widespread area with some heavier snowfall as well. We're likely looking at a pretty big pocket of 7 to 11 inches of additional snowfall on top of what was already a very active winter week across the upper Midwest. This heavier band does include areas like Cedar Rapids, over towards Omaha, Dubuque, Iowa, over towards Chicago. Chicago likely just on the south side of the heaviest snow, watching it very closely, up towards Green Bay and over towards Grand Rapids, Michigan, as it continues to extend out that way. Once we get past that snowfall threat, we will also be talking about a very life-threatening wind threat. Here's a look at those wind chill values, valid early Sunday morning. Wind chills dropping 20 to 30 below zero across a huge portion of the Dakotas into Iowa, northern Illinois, into Wisconsin, and in fact it gets even worse. By Monday morning, wind chills are still 25 to 35 degrees below zero, some places potentially pushing near 40 below zero, and it gets even worse for areas farther south than east. We're talking about wind chills still around 30 to 40 below zero. So what's going on with this system? Let's take a look at the upper level pattern. I think I always like to look at the upper level pattern first to kind of get an idea of what's going on. First and foremost, a big trough is coming on in. Big, strong northwest flow is aloft. We had this kind of precursor shortwave here that kind of helped pull in some of that cold air. That's some of the remnants from a system that kind of left the area here. But look what happens. We head towards, midday Friday. Big trough, a big fetch of very cold air being pulled in here. But the other thing too is that this trough is turning negatively tilted. That's really going to help aid in that cyclogenesis near the surface. It's also going to aid in pushing in more moisture. A warm conveyor belt of very warm moist air begins to get pulled into the system, and that's the fuel for that heavier snowfall north of that area of low pressure. Of course, that left exit region sitting right in this area as well, that allows some divergence aloft, that increases the convergence at the surface. That's how you get a strengthening area of low pressure. Timing out that snowfall threat, we do have this kind of clipper system moving through central and eastern Iowa. This will be late Wednesday into early Thursday morning. Most of Thursday actually looks fine for most of the Midwest and Great Lakes, but then here comes that snowfall threat. We're tracking that snow moving into eastern Nebraska and far western Iowa around 5 to 7 p.m. Thursday evening. But the bulk of the snow for areas like Iowa into northern Illinois and Wisconsin and southern Minnesota, the good news is a lot of this will fall in the overnight hours. So late Thursday into early Friday, that snowfall threat lingering through the overnight into very early Friday morning. By Friday morning, the snow begins to clear much of the state of Iowa, especially the heaviest of that snow. Meanwhile, though, Chicago in the thick of the heaviest snow. Much of Wisconsin still in heavier snow as well, down to Madison, up to Green Bay. And off to the east, the show is just getting going early Friday morning towards like Grand Rapids and Lansing. That snow continues, maybe adding in a bit of wind shear mix before likely going back to all snow. So Michigan, it's a bit of a mixed event. The cold air is kind of being fought off. I talked about that negatively tilted trough. Because it gets negatively tilted, it allows some warm air advection to get pushed in ahead of that low, and that favors some more mixing. And that's why I think over towards Michigan, the confidence level is a bit less. But what isn't low confidence is the wind threat. We'll step forward here. We'll go through late Thursday into early Friday morning. As the snow is ongoing here across the Great Lakes and Midwest, the winds are cranking 25, 35 miles per hour. Some very low visibility, blowing and drifting snow will be a possibility. Blizzard criteria is possible. It's borderline blizzard criteria, but either way, the impacts are about the same. Very hazardous, if not impossible, travel conditions as we go through early Friday morning. The morning commute Friday may be dicey, even though the heaviest of that snow is out of the area. We're still talking about blowing and drifting snow. And then here comes, I talked about that around noon Friday, that 18Z Friday, that upper level pattern fully negatively tilted. That's when that airflow pressure near the surface really begins to ramp up. And look at what happens when you have the airflow pressure strengthen, pressure drops around the area. It's still higher pressure, so the wind begins to increase. That pressure gradient increases, and that's why we're talking about some very strong winds. The high resolution rapid refresh model here is indicating wind gusts potentially 45 to 55 miles per hour on the back side of the system. So the snow threat begins to wind down, but that fresh snow that just fell, blowing and drifting snow, will certainly be a possibility. Here's the visibility. This kind of takes into account some blowing and drifting snow, and you can see right here, late morning Friday, we're seeing near zero visibility, and this is due to that blowing and drifting of that fresh snow that just fell, and that continues into far northern Illinois, that very low visibility. The worst of the conditions will likely be kind of eastern, southeastern Iowa into far northeast Missouri. I don't know if there's going to be enough snow in northern Missouri to cause significant issues, but will be a possibility. But eastern Iowa into far northwest Illinois, likely the worst in terms of the extreme blizzard criteria. When we look at, here we are looking at Omaha and the timing of that snowfall threat. You can see the radar here is 20 through 0 local time. So that's what we're looking at here, upwards of, 6 p.m. to midnight. Some of that heavy snow begins to fall. And we're also looking at wind gusts here, 25 to 35 miles per hour. So borderline blizzard conditions there. And then we're talking about some really cold air that begins to wrap in single-digit air temperatures. Over towards Cedar Rapids, Iowa, obviously the onset of that snow is a bit later. We're talking, the heaviest beginning to move in likely after 10 p.m. through maybe 3 a.m. The heaviest of that snow. Still, though, talking wind gust 25 to 30 miles per hour, so blowing, drifting snow, reduced visibility. And then on the back side, we can see these wind gusts. It's talking wind gusts of 51 miles per hour. Very intense winds. And that could take all that fresh snow, cause blowing and drifting snow. So blizzard criteria, again, borderline. We'll see what happens. We'll extend this over towards Rockford, Illinois. Again, the heaviest snow kind of falling here. This is kind of more mixing going on by Rockford. So the snowfall totals may be a bit overdone. I'm calling, 7 to 11. I think it could be less, or maybe the very low end of that criteria there in northern Illinois, because there may be some more mixing ongoing. But again, we're still talking that snowfall. Early morning commute, here we are, 5, 6 a.m. Heaviest on snow continuing through maybe 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So, right during the morning and evening commute over towards northern Illinois. So we'll keep a close eye on this winter system. Make sure to stay updated with the winter weather alerts from your local National Weather Service and local media as well. I hope you enjoyed this little discussion on the winter storm. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again at the next video.